Welcome, everyone. I apologize that I probably have a lot of background noise. I think we all do the best we can from where we can. So I'm happy today to introduce two of the leaders of the CCTST. And by our attendance numbers that we're expecting, it's clearly a very of high interest to faculty and staff at Children's and the University of Cincinnati. So we have Dr. Kissela, who is our outgoing, one of our PIs of the CCTST, but well representing on the UC side. And then Dr. Meinzen-Derr, Jareen Meinzen-Derr, who is from Children's, but is the designated lead PI for the grant in our multi-PI structure. So they're going to take it from here. Again, I apologize for my background noise. I hope you heard me. And I'm going to put myself on mute.
Thank you, Meg, for that nice introduction. Yes, so this is the first time I've actually given this kind of presentation in a virtual forum. I usually like to be in person and around a table so that we can have a discussion. I also don't like to provide this information as sort of a word vomit of stuff the CCTST can do or be for you. I really want to make sure that we are able to have a conversation so that we address what needs you have now and what are the resources that the CCTST may provide to support those needs that you have. So one of the things that we did do up front is I sent Ctsa a set of slides that she will send around to everybody that simply addresses all of the different areas and the different cores and the different resources that the CCTST does provide you. And I'm going to go through a couple of those just to give you a really brief introduction of those. And then I thought Brett was also going to fill in some of the areas that I think may be very relevant to your needs as it pertains to carrying out some of the research and clinical trials that you may have or you may want to do in the future. And then we're going to, instead of going through slide by slide, I have a series of questions that have been asked of us by you that I would love to be able to sort of go through and tackle some of those, and then have you ask questions along the way, particularly when we haven't been very clear. Does that sound like a good, reasonable, Brett?
Yeah, Jareen, if I could just add, I think
Please.
The CCTST, whenever you have these big grants, we tend to do the same thing when we write them. We put in a bunch of cores and we create committees, and it's very complicated and burdensome to talk about the structure. You almost feel like you have to develop the decoder ring to understand all of our little terminologies for the different things that are in the grant. But the takeaway message, I hope, will be that this is an infrastructure grant that's meant to support researchers doing clinical and translational research at our collective academic health center. And it's meant to provide all the help it can provide. And so we'll talk about a bunch of specific things that Jareen will kick it off, and we'll kind of go back and forth and try to answer your questions. But if you have research needs and you want to be able to ask for help from your institutions respectively, and the CCTST is one mechanism by which we hope we can help you on behalf of our institutions. You'll always be able to send questions to the MPI group, the leadership group of the grant. You have Meg and Jason and Ctsa are fully engaged, and so know all this stuff too. And so there's lots of people you can ask questions of and get help from. We're here to help. That's the bottom line.
Yes, exactly. Okay, I am going to share my screen, and bear with me. I have become very spoiled, and I tend to share only those. I tend to be used to two monitors, and today I have one. So, not as much fun, is it? Okay, but I can see a few of you, and I can see my slides, and I'm assuming everyone else can see my slides also. Perfect. All right, we're going to try this out. I'm not going into slide presentation. That way I can back out of slides, or we can find slides that we would like to target. So this is just sort of an overview of the CTSA Consortium. This is funded by NCATS, which is one of the branches of NIH. And it is, there are, I think, 60 or 62 different CTSA hubs across the United States. And these hubs are really meant to help facilitate, catalyze and facilitate and accelerate the science that happens in these organizations. And so we're really talking about science that does happen across the translational research spectrum. Most of what gets touched with when it comes to CTSAs ends up falling probably between the T1 and T3, with smatterings in T0 and T4. So the parts that really are about efficacy and effectiveness that happen within the human, touching humans. But what you'll see as you're learning more about this CCTST is a lot of our research funding opportunities supports the basic science world in the T0. And what we want to do is continue to expand our science world into T4. We have a large community engagement core that is really there to help us disseminate and implement what we have into the community. And so you can see that the spectrum that we are focused on is a wide spectrum. This is just to give us a different view of what we're talking about when we're talking about research, and it's not just strictly from the T0 to the T4, which feels very numeric and kind of abstract and not very interesting. I will say though that the research that we're talking about is research that goes from the basic science and follows this sort of course to public health and back, and each component informing another component. And that is really what we're excited about doing. And that's what we're hoping that we can help all of the scholars that are here on this particular call to do as well. We have a rather robust leadership structure. This is our executive committee. The CCTST has a number of leadership committees that help inform the decisions that we make and the directions that we take. And these are the members of our executive committee. So we have Dr. Khan, and then you'll see me. We're two of the multiple PIs along with Brett Kissela. And Brett is, as you know, he's transitioning into a much more influential and higher powered role within the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine. And we have now two new MPIs, that's Ctsa Vegal and Jeffrey Strong. Those are both from the departments of radiology and psychiatry, respectively. And so now we have sort of this leadership of a shared leadership structure amongst the four of us between Cincinnati Children's and the University of Cincinnati. Then you'll see the individuals below them. So you know Meg Zeller, Lori Crosby. She is the director of our community engagement core. And if you do anything within community engagement, you will end up knowing her very well. Maurizio Macaluso, he is an executive on the executive committee, and he is in charge of research and methods across the CCTST. He's also the division director of the Division of Biostatistics and Epidemiology. We have Jack Keys, who's in charge of our evaluation, and you might know him a lot around team science. So many of you who know and appreciate and want to learn more about team science. He is the person who's pretty much made us well known for that particular component. Pat Ryan is in charge of the translational workforce development of the CCTST. So we're talking about that strong educational component. Peter Margolis, he is in charge of our learning health systems network. And so he is really bringing a new perspective to the work that we do within the CCTST and helping shift sort of our mindset about the future and where learning health systems may play a role. And finally, we have Sharon Watkins. She is our community representative that is on our executive committee and on our steering committee. And so she really helps ground us in the work that we do and helps make the right connections that we need to community organizations that we may not even know about. So that's our leadership, you know, just the upper level leadership in a nutshell. I also want to kind of just touch so that everybody knows our missions, our vision, and our values. So accelerate, support, and develop is really where we're about when it comes to dissemination, implementation, and disciplinary workforces and collaborative opportunities across the enterprise. So we're really want to make sure that we're able to bridge researchers with stakeholders in the community. Our vision is to have a diverse and engaged research workforce that's conducting transformative biomedical research with the goal of improving health and well-being in our communities. And finally, we have really strong values around our commitments to diversity and equity. And we really want to support embedding these programs in our services as well, and just sort of letting them transverse across the CCTST itself. Now, I think I'm going to pause there for a moment because others are just sort of some data and then some information about the cores. And I want to start to make sure if Brett, if I have anything, if I've missed anything, if there's anything you want me to touch on.
No, I just for this group to maybe know we are very excited about our new leadership in biomedical informatics on both sides of the street. And both Aneda and Umberto, our leaders respectively, are, I believe, on the executive committee as well.
Oh, you're right. I totally forgot about them. I am so sorry.
It's okay. We'll fix the
This
slide.
is me finding. Yes, we will. This is me trying to find all of the pictures at the last minute. So that's my bad. You're right. We have.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yes, we have actually recently filled our BMI core spots with Aneda Mendoza, who is on the children's side and the division director of biomedical informatics, and Umberto Tacanardi, who is the chief digital officer.
Chief Health Digital Officer, and also an associate dean, and also as of today, the new interim chair of BMI. So congratulations, Umberto.
Yeah, thank you. And the two of them are really instrumental in helping us bridge creating basically a data bridge between Children's Hospital and UC, and really strengthening our partnerships across our academic health center. So we're very excited. And yes, they are part of our executive committee. Thank you. Okay. If you guys, just to give you a few measures of impact, because I think that some of the things that often get missed are what is it that, how has the CCTST made an impact at all? And this kind of gives you an idea of what those impacts are, because we hope that you will be part of the impacts that are being made. You can see that we continue to increase the number of academic and community members. So these are members, people that have touched us in some way, shape, or form for one reason or another. We have supported by now nearly 200 investigators through our pilot grants and mentor grant programs, and over 200 investigators through our just-in-time awards, which are the CCTST, as you're going to learn today, has a number of funding opportunities with multiple cycles that support the work that you're doing. These also include methods research assistance. So a lot of the questions that you have there are around requesting biostat support. So we want to talk about how we've done that. And then, of course, the KL2 program that we know about, and how some of you or many of you may be very affiliated with right now. We also have our the number of students. So we have graduated about 500 students from the master's and certificate programs. And these are programs that we do not specifically house, but we do support. We have a number of, we support REDCap. And so I did see that there were some questions around the REDCap access and how do we get additional support around REDCap. We also are going to be able to talk a little bit about accessing the Schubert Research Clinic within Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And I hope that Brett maybe can talk a little bit about the services that may be over at UC, particularly with the Office of Clinical Research. You can also see that when we're thinking about our communities and our partnership developments, that we have grants specifically for developing those partnerships and then linking with those community organizations to for research specific purposes. And every year we provide 5 community health and 5 partnership development grants. And over the course of 10 years, those have actually translated into our ability to make an impact with those grants in over 52,000 individuals within our region alone. And through the Community Leaders Institute, which is one we are sort of the lead flagship of that particular program, we have trained well over 230 community leaders across 129 organizations. That really helps them, give them the skills to develop research and health programs within their own organizations. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a moment. And I can't see any comments or anything. So if people have questions or comments, Krista, or somebody's going to have to look at them, Jason, maybe, to let me know.
I'll let you know. There's nothing in the chat thus far.
Okay, thanks. So is it okay then if we just simply go through the questions that people have? Yes, great. So one of the main questions, which is always a big topic, is how to request biostat support. So there are a number, there's an easy way to request biostats help. And we have a one-stop shop for requesting of consultations within the CCTST. And this one-stop shop is called Research Central. Within Research Central, you can request support for study design, for statistical analysis, you can even request support for biomedical informatics consultations. And we're going to be putting out additional support requests for consultations around questions around learning health systems and dissemination and implementation research. And that's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. So we're excited about that. The request that you put in, it does not matter how big or small the question is. It does not matter at what point in your research project that you are. You will get a consultation with a methodologist who can talk you through the needs that you have. They can be anything from I have a hypothesis that I need help fleshing out, to I need to figure out how I'm going to actually test this hypothesis, to I need help developing a statistical plan. There also could be questions around, I don't know how to analyze this data and I need some direction. There are additional services that we provide for specific groups. So for individuals who are on a K award, so you have, or an award that's similar to a K award. For example, a career development award that's just external to the institution. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, I take that back. Career development awards, period. If you have a career development award, you actually get additional support and in terms of biostatistics and data management help. And the CCTST provides vouchers through the BIRD, the Biostatistics, Epidemiology, Research Design, will provide you a voucher to connect you with a methodologist like a statistician, or the data management and analysis center if you need data management support, setting up large data sets, helping manage those large databases. Those vouchers allow you to do that and allow you access to that extra, that extra additional support for those particular projects. We don't limit you to how much support that you need, because if you are on a career development path, our main goal is to get you transition from that career development or K award to an R. And we want you to be able to save your $25,000 or however much money that you get for that for conducting the study and allowing us to support the aspects of the study that are methods related or biostats related. You still get that through your consultation. You still put in a consultation. You are very explicit about your needs. You talk with somebody and they say, hey, you're eligible, and we will then give you a voucher for those work. We will match you with the biostatistician who has expertise in your area. And we're really try to be very careful and cautious about making sure also that personalities match so that you guys can develop a good relationship as you're moving forward, because our goal is to help you create your team. So I'm going to pause there. The slides that we are providing you that that I can stop sharing just for a minute. The slides that Krista will send out has those links very explicitly stated where Research Central is. I'm very happy to show that to you, but I will tell you that they are in those slides. So I'm going to pause and see reactions, questions to that whole entire scenario. Brett, if you wanted to add.
No, again, we have to have some structure around this. If you're stuck at all and you're confused, don't bash your head against the wall. Just pick up the phone and call us. We will help you.
I get emails all the time, and CCTST also has an email site. And I can also tell you that the leaders of this particular meeting, so Meg, Jason, and Krista, also know how to send you into our direction. Now there is a question in the chat. The consultation's open for any member, yes. And you can be a member really easily. You just have to sign up, and then the consultations are available to you. So no, you do not have to have a K award or a special award to get a consultation. You can get as many consultations as you want. There is no limit to them. So I've had people come back to me personally multiple times to help them figure out what their needs are and to get them to where they need to go. Anybody, I'm going to go one step further. Anyone who's putting in an extramural grant application. So you've decided you're going to write, and I'm going to use the typical NIHR, you're going to write an R01, and you don't know how to connect with a methodologist, and you don't know how much data management needs you have. You don't know how to write. You need to connect with an informatician who needs to work with you around some of your big data questions. You put in a consultation. We will give you a voucher to allow you to partner with a methodologist to work through the grant application. So we are trying to create your team, and we will support your grant application that way. Next question I see, any training offers to UC graduate PhD students? So that's a great question. You might have to be a little more specific. There are a lot of training opportunities, and I think it just depends on what training opportunities you're seeking for us to be able to address that. I don't know if you wanted to. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Add that all the services that are available across the spectrum. And so, it's not that only faculty can access them and graduate students cannot. I mean, there is a process to go through where you'd request methodology and biostatistics. I think for trainees, we often prefer that you have a mentor identified and that we can clearly tell that you're being well mentored, because we think that's important for your success during your training. But short of that, you should be eligible for consideration for services as well.
Yes. And it looks like the question, a little more specificity. So training opportunities and methodology and biostatistics. So if you're thinking about like 1 hour courses, 1 hour lectures, workshops, we have a CTR online program that may have some modules that may be of interest to you. There are also, through our Translational Workforce Development Core, has set up a number of different training opportunities. If you are sitting in a division or a department in which you would like somebody to provide a lecture on something, you can reach out and we can see if we can identify people. That happens all the time, and we have a lot of relationships with divisions in which we do that. So there could be a variety of different opportunities for getting knowledge and education and training. The next question, how to find a mentor. So I am going to make Brett start on this one.
Well, I think, hopefully if you are here on faculty or here as a trainee, you have had people that have encouraged you to come to the organization, and your direct reports, your leaders for your respective divisions or departments, I think would be a great place to start in saying, I'd like to have, some mentoring if you have not already found some, and see, since they should know what you're all about you, and they may be able to help guide you. Additionally, one of the things that we do want to do is not just be in silos, right? So I'm a neurologist. If I hired someone who came to the department, I'd hope there'd be someone in the department who's going to be mentoring them, whether that's their direct leader or myself or whatever. But you might think, hey, is there someone else in a different department at UC or someone at Children's in a related area that could also help serve as a mentor? I think there's different ways to approach this. Certainly word of mouth and helping find the right kind of person through people's experience and having some knowledge of others is one easy way to go. Certainly there are ways to use our, I'm forgetting the name of it. There's a way that we can, through the find people with like interests through keyword searches. And I'm forgetting the name of that system where you could try to find others who might be relevant. There are packages like Dimensions, which I believe both sides of the street have access to, that can help with some of that. And then there, if you wanted to be considered for pretty much for faculty, we have an integration committee that Jareen had put on the slide there that we would like to be nominated by your supervisor, but we have 3 times a month, we invite someone to come to the CCTST and really tell us what they're working on, and we try to help them find different connections and the right mentors and such. Often integration committee, I would say, is for people who already have found mentors and are trying to help get through barriers, and so that may not be the right way to answer the question of how to find mentors. But we, after the CCTST, we will try and help identify people to collaborate with if we can.
Thanks, Brett. And in addition to sort of add to that lovely description of how one might go about finding a mentor, I also recognize that sometimes you're in a division in which you don't feel like the mentorship that you may get there is the mentorship that you want or need. One of the things that is actually quite lovely about the CCTST leadership structure is that the leaders of the CCTST know a lot of people, and they know people who know people. And so one of the things that has been that people can do is reach out to the MPIs to ask them who they need to be, who they need to contact. I know Brett gives an awful lot of being able to make the connections. He can think off the top of his head 3 people that may be interested. Our other 2 MPIs on the UC side have those same fingers out within the university, and on the children's side we have the same. We know we've been here for quite some time, and we know a lot of people, and so we can talk through what kind of mentorship you want and think about how we might align you with somebody. There's lots of different ways to approach finding a mentor.
Yeah, I will also say that, since this is the K Club, as people are creating mentorship teams for Ks, I think having recently been reviewing Ks for NIH, I think that what we're seeing most commonly is people having mentorship teams. And so you might want to think of that as you're positioning yourself where you're likely to have a primary mentor who might be someone who's the reason you are working where you're working, but having mentorship teams that often span institutions. So not just local, but at other institutions as well, people who would be important and influential in helping you succeed and grow as a researcher if you are to put in a K. I would say a typical number would be between 3 and 5.
You could probably have an entire talk on mentors and who they are and what they are and when you need certain ones. Which actually is a good segue to the next question, which is connecting with potential collaborators at UC and CCHMC. This is always a harder one. It kind of has the same flavor as how do I find a mentor? The CCTST is supposed to be a bridge between the two. And so using the same concepts that you may use when finding a mentor, I would also apply to finding a UC colleague. And because we have so many amazing people on both sides of the street who are working together within the CCTST, we can think about how to find mentors for you or colleagues, partners and collaborators for you on the UC side. And this also may be where Brett, when he talked about integration committee, that might come in, where you come and talk to leaders across both organizations around your idea so that we can brainstorm together about who makes sense for you to partner with in some of those research endeavors. And yes, Krista put in where you can email to find any question that you have can be sent to that email website, and definitely including the mentorship. Okay. Understanding details needed in justification for vouchers. Okay, this is good. It's specifically how to state you went over your budgeted time without highlighting lack of ability to correctly estimate DMAC BMI staff support. So this simply is potentially a misunderstanding of the vouchers. So we give vouchers in $2,000 increments simply because we need a way to document how much we're putting out there. And we also need a measure of accountability about how much is getting used. If you are writing a grant application and you know that you're going to go over that $2,000, we'd let you do that. And simply your biostatistician will report more hours than the however many hours makes up $2,000. If you have, let's say, a large project, you're on a K award, you received a voucher, you're tapping into DMAC, and you have a very large project that is clearly going to take more time, or DMAC underestimated how much time it will take, that's okay too. We allow to go over the voucher, and you can, in fact, the voucher can be renewed. And we've actually streamlined our process since in the past several years so that it's much smoother, so that we just simply say, yes, you can get another voucher. All we ask are for some kind of estimate about how much time it'll take, because the pot of money is finite. So we just want to make sure that we're always keep our eye on that. But that is not a problem. And if it ever is a problem, you can easily reach out to me. You can send an email to the CCTST at uc.edu, and we will work with you to sort of smooth out that problem.
Hey, Jareen,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
bothering me. So I went and opened up the CCTST website, which I hope everyone is a member and familiar with. But at the bottom of the CCTST website, there is a search function on the homepage called Find a Collaborator, in reference to our previous question. That's what I was referring to, and badly. But if you just type in there any keywords of interest, people will pop up, and it's one way to help identify people who might be collaborators or mentors for you. That's a good place to start. Just wanted to say that. Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you for doing that. If you're wanting to know how to connect with certain people, I think people, especially people you don't know, because when you try to cold email people, sometimes they get ignored, because if I don't know you, you're not going to be potentially my priority. That happens. We can help connect you with certain people if you want to sit down and have a meeting with someone. Someone always knows someone, and we can help make that marriage happen. Okay, great. Use of cores, support for taking courses at UC. The use of cores. I'm afraid I don't know. This could mean many things. If I'm not entirely sure if someone wants to pipe up. So there's cores are two things. Once, if it's the tapping into the cores within the CCTST, you absolutely can. The Research Central currently has the ability to tap into multiple cores within the CCTST. If you're talking very specifically, the cores that are set up within CCHMC, there's about 22, I think, different core services, and you're trying to access those.
Yes, and likewise at UC, there's about 20 some cores. And so, the way you want to think about this is through the I believe you can find all the cores in the Just-in-Time website, if nothing else, and we have across our academic health center, there are some cores that are so common they're duplicated on both sides of the street. In some cases, they're cores that are so unique we only have them at Children's or only have them at UC. You can find a listing of all those cores, and when you link on them, hit the link, it will tell you how to access those cores if you're trying to access a very specific core that does a very particular function, genotyping, mass spec, whatever it is, for very specific research functions. That's where you would find some of those. I know on the UC side, the Office of Research website also has a long listing of those cores and how to access them. And Ken Grice is the director of that. And I'm sure there's something very similar on the children's side. For some cores that you might want as a clinical and or translational researcher, very generically, our cores are things like methodology and biostats, regulatory support, community engagement. There's different kinds of cores that are relevant, but just different than sort of a laboratory-based core, which is more what those other core lists are. Hope that made sense.
Thank you. And in terms of support for taking courses at UC, if you're talking about financial support, that is not exactly what the CCTST is able to do. We can't provide financial support for individuals to take courses over at UC. We can provide a list of courses that are very specific to some of the programs that the CCTST offers. Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead, please.
I would just jump in that if you are asking about tuition remission specifically, you should talk to your supervisor and your HR department.
Yes, thank you. And both Cincinnati Children's has tuition remission for faculty members that are here. And of course, UC would as well. So I'd like to know if the REDCap team is available for study builds or adjustments. This is a great question. So there's a yes and no component to this. So the REDCap team is phenomenal and will help you as much as possible, but they are a small team relative to the number of individuals who tap into REDCap. They are great and will answer your questions. They will also try to provide you with some self-serving learning opportunities so that you can figure it out yourself. If you're wanting expansive sort of data builds, tapping into the DMAC would be where I would go for that. So if you are, for example, on one of those career development awards, you can tap into DMAC to help you with some of your builds. If you are not on a career development award and you haven't written, you don't have funding for DMAC, there will be a fee for service that you might need to work with. There's also a lot of opportunities to talk to somebody just to figure out how to do it. And so they will talk you through how to do it. But in terms of making any major data study builds or major adjustments to an already built database, that's probably outside of what they can do from a manpower standpoint.
Jareen, I'll add on there too that if you guys go to the CCTST website on our research calendar, there are workshop hours for the REDCap team where you can one-on-one meet with them for specific problems you may have in your project build. I've always found them super helpful, and they're really great about trying to dig into what your problem is so you can learn the system and also figure out your problem.
And I've been using an acronym that I realized I haven't officially clarified what that is. So DMAC is the Data Management and Analysis Center. It is affiliated with the CCTST, with the bird core of the CCTST. It sits at Cincinnati Children's, but it is available to both UC and Children's, and the CCTST can help facilitate those relationships. And what they do is exactly what's in their title. They actually do data management and analysis, which includes building expansive REDCap databases. All right. Continued education and community research. This is a great question. So if we're talking about community research courses, there are the Community Engagement Core has been working on increasing the number of community-based research courses that are being provided through the master's and the certificate programs and the master's programs over at UC. So we are in fact increasing those, and they're doing right now I believe it's a participatory research course right now that is being Lori Crosby and Farah Jacquez they're both co-leading that, and those are both co-directors of our community engagement course. So yes, those courses do exist, and we are building the number of and the types of courses that do exist in that area. Various CCTST funding mechanisms available. This is a great question. And in the handouts that you will have or do have, you will be able to find where the links are to all of the CCTST funding mechanisms that are available. And there's a number of them, and with deadlines that happen throughout the year. If you have any questions that are around specific funding mechanisms, you're trying to understand if that mechanism is appropriate for you, because we do have a number of them. I recommend sending an email to the CCTST email, and we will make sure that the person who's in charge of those mechanisms can respond to your email. And if you need to talk, we can set up a phone call just to talk through some of the different opportunities. Funding mechanisms, by the way, for children's and for UC. It's agnostic to where you are currently living, just so you know. How to access consultations and services. I think we've covered this in the same request to biostat support. It's okay if you don't have all of the answers or all of the reasons why you're doing it. Do it and try. And we will just get you with the methodologist, someone who can connect you to the right people. It can even include, I need help with IRB, you know, I have IRB questions and I don't know who to go to. That's what our job is to help you facilitate all of that.
And if you're in any way stuck, don't bash your head against the wall. Shoot us an email, give us a call. We're here to help.
I am going to pause right there because Brett, I think I'd like you to also inform them a bit about the Trial Innovation Network, which is something that I think is an underutilized service.
Yeah, this may be more important for awareness. A lot of you, if you're writing Ks, are not necessarily going to tap into the Trial Innovation Network, but it's good to know about it. The CC, you may be aware that the NIH likes to have research networks that stand at the ready so that when a trial comes up for example, we are the lead site for StrokeNet for the country, meaning that when there's a standing network of sites ready to do stroke trials. And so as the Institute approves trials that open up for stroke, they're easily implemented across a broad network. And as they built these networks, they found them to be pretty successful at shortening the time to get from an idea to an answer. And so with that in mind, they did create the Trial Innovation Network, which really is the network of all the CTSA funded sites in the country. And what that means is that they want to take trials that may come only through the Trial Innovation Network, or maybe trials that, for example, the StrokeNet trials are pushed out to the CTSA sites to see if they can even further expand the number of sites and the recruitment. What the infrastructure is internal to the CTSA network, as Jareen is showing here, is that they do have, if you wanted to engage with the Trial Innovation Network as an investigator, you can request services from the Trial Innovation Network, and the central hubs that evaluate your request would be either the TICs, as they're called, the Trial Innovation Centers, or the RICS, Recruitment Innovation Centers. And it's really just the coordinating centers that can help you with any question, whether it be a single thing about a multi-site trial, or in fact, whether you want them to work with you on the development, submission of the trial, including everything from core functions like statistics, methodology, statistics, data management. If you engage with the trial, they can serve as the coordinating site for the trial, which actually is a budget reduction in your application to an institute, because the NCATS, which funds the CTSA network, will take on that cost. All the way through execution of the trial and completion through to publication of results. So we have had investigators apply for services. It's often viewed favorably if the CTSA network wants to help you with your idea in your trial. That's a nice thing to say to your review panel, that they've offered to help engage. And if you are in the midst of a trial, we've had investigators that want to get help. So we've used, for example, the Recruitment Innovation Center in the idea that maybe there's ideas that could be utilized to help recruit for trials, especially if you're getting stuck. So it's a big bucket of services that you should be aware of as you apply for grants, that if you're ever going to put in a multi-site trial, it might be of some benefit for you to engage with. The last thing I'll say about it is that people are continually putting things into the Trial Innovation Network. And so certain members of the CTST team, like myself, field those requests, and they'll send us a thing saying, hey, there's a heart failure trial that someone has pushed into the network. Would you like to participate? If so, please identify someone who'd like to be a site PI. And then they give us a mechanism to do an EHR search to see what our possibility is for eligible subjects. And so there's some conceivable way that someone like me might someday reach out to you and say, hey, are you interested in being a site PI for a trial in a disease area where you have expertise? Hope that all made sense. Happy to take any questions about that and follow up, or if Jareen, if you want to add anything.
No, I think that was a nice, nice, clear and concise description of the Trial Innovation Network. And I also know that it is a network that is not utilized enough, likely, for a lot of the work that we try to do and try to get going. And it doesn't cost anything to put in a request for review. So at minimum, it's worth testing the waters, I would even
Yeah,
say.
I will say this. So if you're even considering it, we do have people designated to be responsible for it. Jeff Strawn of the new multiple PIs is likely to be taking over my role as the primary advisor for this. And I will certainly help Jeff as he gets acclimated, but I'm happy to talk to anyone about whether it makes sense for you to apply. The only cost would be that there's a long form they want you to fill out, not unlike the form you fill out for the NIH when you're proposing a large budget project that they like to see before you go in for submission. And so, we have a lot of help internally, right? This is part of what the CCTST does. This would be useful to you only if you're going to do a multi-site trial that you want to find ways to get additional sites engaged very quickly, and potentially to help you at the review because it might be viewed favorably. But for a lot of things that you might ask for, we can do that, right? We might be able to give you great ideas for how to do recruitment or how to help you with methodology and statistics and other things. So I'm always happy to help. Just ask us the questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Brett. And you actually reminded me the other thing. One other last thing, especially for individuals who are on K or who are thinking about getting a K, hasn't gotten one yet, who may be transitioning from a K to an R. One of the things that we love to do is provide letters of support for those K awardees in particular. The application, it allows us to show NIH or your funding or your funder, potential funder, that the CCTST wants to partner with you and support the research that you're doing as you're moving forward. And that we do take your careers very seriously. And so we do, that is something that we provide, and it allows NIH to see that we're also, we're putting some skin in the game in terms of your career development. And so please do not hesitate to ask. I'm always a big proponent of, you're never going to get something if you don't ask for it. So I think that we want you to ask for help when you have a need. There, well, we are, there's nearly 10 minutes left. I think I've gone through all of your questions that I have sitting here in front of me, and I want to make sure that we answered what you wanted us to answer. Does anybody have anything else? Anything we specifically missed? I think
I did want to say out loud, Dr. Takanardi sent a message, which he sent to me. I think he might have sent it to everyone, to say that there are shared data resources that are multi-institutional that are available for all of our researchers in our academic health center, like Trinetics or the ACT network or the N3C, which are all a bunch of acronyms that you may not know about, but they're ways for us to try and help you using the data that's available that have been accumulated on patients and other things. And if you can contact the BMI core about those for help. For example, if you wanted to search how many patients might be eligible for a particular study that you're trying to do, BMI might be able to help you do a quick EHR search to look across the enterprise and see how many people meet your criteria.
absolutely. Yeah, it is a resource that we do actually have. We also have a lot of support within our community engagement course. So for those of you who have research that really wants to engage community members, community organizations, really start working on some of that patient-centered research that we are all should be thinking about doing, we have that too. Again, it's as simple as a Research Central consultation request, and the Community Engagement Core is on there, and you can actually just sit and talk to somebody about your ideas.